Women's Health Week continues on the North Dakota. Today we're talking about health issues that women don't know how to talk to their provider about.
Kind of touchy topics that we've been talking about this week. And today, hair loss. Most people think that hair loss only affects men. However, it's estimated that more than 50% of women will also experience noticeable hair loss. And joining us today, we've had a great week of experts from Sanford Health. Today, Sanford Health certified nursing midwife Kayla Quinn joins us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Let's just start with the very basic. What is hair loss in women? What sometimes you just pull a little bit out and we freak out, but there's lots of different levels.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's normal for some of your hair to fall out. Everyone loses about 50 to 100 hairs a day, so that's pretty normal. But when it starts to become excessive and you're noticing big clumps of it falling out, or it's being thinner on top or on the sides, that's when we kind of start to think, oh, maybe there's something more going on than just the normal shedding that we all have.
Right.
And so are there different levels or different reasons for what's happening?
Sure, yeah. So there's a lot of different reasons. It can be due to like stressors in your life, things like having a baby. I think we all pretty much remember our hair getting nice and thick and then all of a sudden it falls out. And that's not as fun.
There seems to be a pattern this week with babies.
Yeah.
And what they do.
We're blaming our babies for everything.
To our bodies.
Yes. So stuff like that, which is a big hormonal shift in your body. So any other hormonal shifts like menopause, certain medications that cause hormonal changes, other things like we think of chemotherapy, things like that for sure, dangerous medications. And then sometimes it's just genetic. There's just like there's male pattern baldness, there's female pattern baldness also, so it can be genetic also.
Okay. So a lot of times too we talk about people will say stress or just different things happening in your life.
Absolutely. It can be as much as having some anxiety and depression, which I know you guys talked about yesterday, or just a single stressor in your life at a certain time, like the loss of a loved one, or caring for someone who's ill. I imagine COVID probably caused some extra hair loss over the last year. That's a big stressor.
Right.
So, anytime your body is kind of working to do other things and regulate your stress, it's going to push off the less important things, like growing your hair, I guess would be one of those less important things.
So we're talking about some of the different reasons. There are different types of hair loss as well.
Yeah. There's, like we kind of talked about, it's the medication related. So things like chemotherapy can cause, very stressful, or not stressful, but like the medication itself can cause the hair loss. Otherwise, genetics is a certain type. Otherwise, just the stressors or hormones in general.
This, I want to touch on this because this sometimes is a touchy subject for some reason. It's not when we're talking about men for some reason, but why do women, have a hard time bringing this up? And do you see that with some of your patients?
We see it a lot with the hormonal things, like, is my birth control causing this? Are my certain medications causing this? And sometimes it's also as simple as, what's your hairstyle like? Are you wearing your hair in a tight ponytail every day? Because that's breaking off hairs and they can't grow back as fast as they're coming off. So it can be something as simple as wear your hair down a little bit more, or the tight braids, things like that, or people who have use a lot of hair products to do a lot of damage to their hair, then your hair is going to fall out a little bit faster than your body can recover. But I would say the most that we tend to see with people is thinking it's their medications, or of course once we hit menopause would be the other one.
I've heard that about the ponytail thing, or even wearing a hat.
Yeah.
If you are wearing, they say that with men, the more men wear a hat, they're going to lose a little bit because you're constantly fidgeting with your hat and pulling it forward. But the same could go for us. And so that makes perfect sense as far as ponytails and braids and so forth. And some people, they really yank on that.
They wear their hair back real tight.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And it, if we pay attention through time, that's the trends, right? Sometimes the trend is this tight, high ponytail. And, you might definitely notice some more hair loss at that point if you're doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Can you talk specifically about female pattern hair loss?
Sure.
And that seems like a little more specific than some of the things we've talked about.
Yeah, and usually that will have a genetic component to it. So if you've got family members who also have some hair loss, but that's when you tend to see it more, like the losing the hair on the tops of the head, or the hair just starts to really thin out over time. It's not usually some big drastic loss of hair, right? It's this gradual thinning that happens, and you kind of start to notice, like, oh, I'm seeing some bald spots going on. The hair's just not really growing back. You're losing the same amount of hair follicles, but they're just not really growing back. And there are things we can do to treat that sometimes. there's things like Rogaine. We think of Rogaine just for men, but it is approved for women too. There's a couple medications, and then there's other ones that aren't really well studied yet, but that are starting to come out because I think this is becoming more of an issue. We like our hair.
Yeah, that's, I think, the biggest thing is like, you know, our hair, kind of your hairstyle, we can change it often, you know, whatnot, but it's kind of who you are a little bit, you know? I mean,
And it's something we have control over.
Yes, it is.
exactly. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
For sure. So, okay, well, I know it's challenging though, because I mean, I think, okay, first of all, you started out, I've been talking about, okay, I'm losing hair, you know, in the shower. You see it, you know, in your drain and whatnot. But that you're saying is kind of normal.
It can be normal. I mean, obviously you want to watch for patterns. If all of a sudden it's getting to be more over
Right.
time, you know, we kind of know how much hair we lose. You kind of notice, oh, every couple days I have to clean up the extra hair around the house or whatever. But it's when you kind of start to notice bigger clumps of it, or it's coming out more thickly in your hands when you're doing your hair, would be a sign of maybe it is something a little bit more.
Whoever's job it is to clean the drain in the shower, that is the person who will
That's the
overshoot.
person, yes.
We're going to take a quick break right now, but we're going to have much more on women and hair loss right after this.